Today on my channel, Survive and Thrive, I wanted to talk about a disruptor industry in psychedelics, and one company that I do have holdings in within one of my more long-term portfolios is the company MindMed, ticker symbol MMEDF. Taking a look at the latest news with this company, there's a lot of positive things that are coming out of where they're headed and what they're currently going into trial for. Looking at this first article, MindMed receives FDA Type C meeting response for Project Lucy, Phase 2B clinical trial. This is a trial that's specifically targeted towards LSD and generalized anxiety disorder as an initial indication. At this time, MindMed is planning to submit their investigational new drug application, or IND, for Project Lucy in the third quarter of 2021 and expects to launch its Phase 2B clinical trial shortly thereafter in the last quarter of this year. Further agreement from the FDA on the company's clinical approach for the development of LSD in the treatment of anxiety disorders is in line with positive FDA feedback. MindMed will pursue the treatment of generalized anxiety disorder as its first indication, as mentioned above. The clinical development program is scheduled to advance in late 2021 with the launch of study MMED-008, which is a Phase 2B dose optimization study of LSD in approximately 200 patients who are currently diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. This study, with clinical sites mainly within the United States, will assess improvements in anxiety symptoms following a single administration of LSD and will be the catalyst to select a final dose to be taken forward into Phase 3 pivotal clinical trials. So this all spells really great news, and as we dive deeper into the research and articles that I've found, we'll see how this affects the totable addressable market and some of the other psychedelic use cases that MindMed is trying to target. As it notes here, generalized anxiety disorder is a chronic, often debilitating mental health disorder that affects approximately 6% of US adults. Put that into perspective, the United States has currently 332 million people, and about 255 million of those are adults. So if you do the quick math, 6% of that population is about 15 million people. So this is a very significant deal and disorder that needs to be addressed. And for those of you that have read into the opioid crisis, we can see that there's been many other drugs that have been tried, or abuse of drugs for people who are trying to deal with their mental health situation, that have not been successful. And especially with the times that we're in, with high stress and being in lockdown for well over a year now, there's been a much higher percentage of mental health cases and suicide, unfortunately. And so figuring out a long-term plan and being able to use psychedelics and make them safe for this use is going to present a very big opportunity for growth and expansion for MindMed, as well as other companies who are in the psychedelics, and hopefully overall be a very positive impact to the mental and stress disorders that are out there. As of May 20th, MindMed announces the approval of mescaline study. This was approved by the local SWIFT Ethics Committee of the first clinical trial evaluating the acute effects of different doses of mescaline and the role of serotonin receptor in mescaline-induced altered states of consciousness. The study will be conducted at the University Hospital Basel Liechti Lab in Basel, Switzerland, which is planned to start this month, actually. Now, to discuss in more detail what mescaline is, it's actually a classical serotonergic hallucinogen similar to LSD psilocybin, with a long, non-regulated history of spiritual use. However, modern regulated studies using validated psychometric tools and directly comparing different doses of mescaline, including placebo, are missing. And they believe this Phase 1 study will provide such data and an important basis for further research and the therapeutic potential of mescaline. It's great to see that MindMed is really trying to expand the number of psychedelics that they're putting into clinical trials or trying to get approved for trial purposes, and quickly researching and coming up with what will be beneficial in the long term and really expand their company's business very quickly. Another latest news press release, the Chopra Foundation and MindMed enter into letter of intent to partner on the future of psychedelic medicines and mental well-being. So really what they're after here is to educate and build public awareness around the use of psychedelic medicines to treat mental illness and remove outdated stigmas. Those stigmas coming out of when LSD was used as a hard drug back in the 70s and having it negatively perceived by most people today. Ultimately, they want to research mental well-being approaches that can be used in psychedelic-related psychotherapy. These two organizations plan to design and conduct research together surrounding altered states of consciousness, psychedelic psychotherapy, and their overall impact on mental well-being. Beyond psychedelics, as part of this research, MindMed intends to explore ways for therapists to integrate evidence-based digital therapeutics and digital measurement technology into their routine practice. It just so happens that this month, the month of May, is Mental Health Awareness Month, which is also a time to remember that there has not been a transformative breakthrough in mental health care in the United States in several decades. America is facing a mental health crisis and is in dire need of innovative treatment solutions. 1 in 5 American adults endure the pain of mental illness each year, while less than half of those in need receive treatment. MindMed is aiming to solve the broad problems of anxiety, depression, substance use disorders, and pain syndromes through the careful study and clinical application of psychedelic medicines and digital therapeutics. The Chopra Foundation is dedicated to improving the health and well-being of humanity. Mental illness and psychedelics for far too long have been associated with unnecessary stigmas. It's time we shift our thinking and change the conversation in order to positively address the needs of mental health and well-being, as stated by Dr. Deepak Chopra. This is a great combination of a company that is diving into the different uses of psychedelic and how it can be used for medicinal purposes, as well as more of a all-encompassing or bigger picture view of how to address these major problems that are happening throughout the world. I wanted to talk about the Dalles Report article that I found. It says in 6 years, the North American psychedelic drugs market could exceed $6.8 billion. And as it notes here, psychedelics companies leading the charge. A few of the companies that could have a positive impact on the lives of those suffering from depression, anxiety, and PTSD, as promoted by recent press releases, include MindMed. Now, as it's stated up above, $6.8 billion as being the market for North America, MindMed estimates there is 100 billion global total addressable market for psychedelics. I just was watching a video yesterday on Meet Kevin, and I will put a suggestion link here in my video so that you can check it out, where he sits down and has an interview with Kevin O'Leary, or Mr. Wonderful, most notably known from Shark Tank, and the CEO and co-founder of MindMed, and they really go into great length and detail about TAM, or the total addressable market, and how MindMed is going to be a very big player in developing and taking a great portion of this market and providing some really great investing opportunities for those who have done their research on this and think that this is one of the waves of the future. In that video, you'll see that Kevin O'Leary actually points out that he thinks that the psychedelic market actually has a greater opportunity than even cannabis. So like I said, I really see a lot of excitement and momentum behind this particular industry. And I think that in the next 5 to 6 years, there's going to be a lot of things happening. And so I'm really positioning myself now to really build out my position, knowing that in the next 5 to 7 years, that I'll have a great stake and hopefully be making some decent returns on my investment at that time, and be able to be a part of one of those disruptor industries that will help me build out my investment portfolio and building my path to financial freedom. I wanted to wrap this up by taking a look at some potentials for where the current price is per share, $3.43. And from this wallet investor website, the 1-year forecast being $6.66, and in 5 years, $20.44. I haven't done any real great in-depth technical analysis on seeing how accurate this is, but I do agree that in the next 5 years, seeing $20 per share could be very easy to achieve. And I honestly think that we could even be twice that per share if everything goes right for MindMed and their clinical trials. I really just wanted to talk a little bit about the latest news with this company, where they're headed, what they've got in the works at the current time, and give you a little bit of exposure to some of the great things I see for this company and why I want to really back them and support them, and give you some insight into doing some of your own research and see if this is one that you want to buy into based on your own due diligence and research. As you know, I'm not a financial advisor, but I definitely like to help bring those companies to light, especially if I think that they have long-term momentum and growth and could be a great part of your portfolio. Keep building on your financial path to freedom and stay strong for the long term. Don't just survive, thrive.